News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. An average of almost 700 new coronavirus cases a day have been reported by the Utah Department of Health the last 4 days, driving the rolling 7-day average to 522 a day. The 4 new COVID deaths reported today include a Cache County woman over the age of 85 who was not hospitalized at the time of her death. She is the 113th coronavirus death in the Bear River Health District. There have been 2,413 total deaths since the start of the pandemic. The Friday Utah Department of Health report indicates 669 new cases were detected statewide since Thursday, while the total cases during 16 months of the pandemic number 422,619. Recently, the number of hospitalizations have increased daily, with 281 in hospitals with the virus as of today, which is 23 more than Thursday. Of those patients, 108 are in intensive care, 7 more than Thursday. The Bear River Health Department reported 25 new cases since yesterday. A total of 22,613 residents of Cache, Box Elder, and Rich counties have contracted the virus. BRHD also reported 22,281 of all cases in northern Utah are classified as recovered. KBNU News Time is 4:06. KBNU weather for tonight. Partly cloudy skies, overnight low in the upper 50s, and then sunny mid-90s on Saturday, sunny and upper 90s on Sunday. It's 90 degrees right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Northern Steel Building. Steel is stronger, more flexible, and more dependable than wood, masonry, and concrete, plus steel is often less expensive. See their work online at northernsteelbuilding.com.
Oh, we live in a great area. Are you just back from a camping trip? Don't take your sleeping bags to the dry cleaner. Come to Mount Logan Laundry. For just a few quarters, our 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers will have those bags clean for your next trip. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry.
KBNU News Time is 4:07. The identity of the motorcyclist killed in Thursday night's crash in South Logan has been identified as law enforcement continues to investigate. Spencer Scott Rawls, a 24-year-old Brigham City man, was pronounced dead at Intermountain Logan Regional Hospital after life-saving efforts failed. Rawls was traveling southbound on US 8991 in the inside lane at around 8 p.m. At the same time, a Hyundai Palisade was stopped at 2000 West, waiting to enter the highway. As the SUV attempted to turn left to go northbound, it pulled out in front of Rawls' motorcycle, who collided into the SUV's driver's side. Logan City Police Captain Curtis Hooley said the driver of the SUV told officers they never saw the motorcyclist. Another vehicle was traveling southbound in the outside lane and may have partially blocked the view of the SUV driver. Rawls was wearing a helmet but sustained critical injuries in the crash. CPR was performed at the scene until paramedics arrived. He was transported by ambulance to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Officers report none of the 4 occupants in the SUV sustained any injuries. There is also no indication of impairment. As part of the investigation, a blood test for the driver was conducted and sent to the Utah State Crime Lab. Hooley said at this time it appears to have just been a terrible accident. And Idaho's governor says lawmakers should not reconvene to consider legislation to prevent employers from requiring workers to get COVID-19 vaccinations. Idaho Governor Brad Little said Thursday that he needs to know more about it, but his default position is that it's usually best for employees and employers to work out disagreements. The Lewiston Tribune reported that 3 large healthcare providers announced policies last week requiring employees to get vaccinations. That has prompted some lawmakers to call for the state legislature to reconvene to pass a law dealing with such requirements. KBNU News Time is 4:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Get your news from KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Adams Wealth Advisors have helped thousands of people create financial peace of mind. Understanding your family, job, hobbies, and goals is how Adams Wealth Advisors earn the long-term trust of the individuals they proudly serve.
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind, whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com. That's AdamsWealthAdvisors.com to schedule a time with an advisor today.
Trouble with pain, sleep, or anxiety? Want better health? Try CBD7, the CBD experts. You simply can't get this water-soluble CBD at grocery, convenience, or health food stores. Water-soluble CBD7 absorbs 15 times better and tastes great. CBD7 has the only clinically proven formula with real measurable results. Many feel better in minutes. CBD7 is not a drug and has no side effects. Other CBDs just can't do all that. Visit CBD7 today. Learn about CBD and try our best for free.
Disability is not inability. A person's ability may be different, but still an ability. No matter one's race or age, no matter one's physical or mental condition, we all have limitless possibilities. For more than 100 years, Easter Seals has helped the 1 in 4 people with disabilities in America live, work, learn, and play. I'm Angela Williams, CEO of Easter Seals.
Visit EasterSeals.com to help.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Monday on This Morning, America's First News. A recap of the significant events over the weekend, like the unrelenting heat in the West and the accompanying wildfires. Also, why the Afghan pullout weighs so heavily on American veterans. Plus, the jobs lost during the pandemic that are just not coming back. And the simple gym routine that could get you hurt. Monday on This Morning, America's First News. Monday morning from 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news, weather, and sports.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cash Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have 2 guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVN News for the People. It is Friday, July 16th. I'm Jason Williams. Andy Morgan joining me in just a bit for a special 2-hour movie show. Why, you ask? Well, why not? The reason is there is a lot in theaters this weekend and next, and a few we missed from last week. But really, it's to take a look at this just open floodgate of trailers that hit this week. Trailers for new movies on streaming services, trailers for new movies in theaters, trailers for the one everyone's talking about most today, the new, I think this is the third attempt to fire up a franchise around the famous DC Suicide Squad comics. So far, it hasn't been a lot of luck with that. But this new trailer has everyone hopeful. This is the second trailer for the Suicide Squad film, and the first one created a lot of excitement as well. But critics are saying that just from what few clips they've been shown, embargoed of course, that this might be DC's first real run at taking on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, obviously, nobody's going to dethrone Marvel. The success they've had with over 10 years of films at this point, now 3-4 successful television-style series on Disney+. New movies coming. Black Widow in theaters now and kicking off in the theaters, at least the official Phase 4 of Marvel Cinematic Universe. They are going to hold the champion title for indefinitely, I would say, because they've just had massive success with those movies. And, there's a lot of speculation about why. It may be timing. The fact that no one else was really doing anything similar at the same time maybe played into it. Who knows? Either way, Marvel knows they're onto something, and they have shown clearly that they have no plans to stop or slow down anytime soon. If you remember years ago, Andy and I speculating here on the show about when Marvel's first big flop would come. The Star Wars universe, Harry Potter, even Hunger Games, they've all had that one film that just didn't. Star Wars didn't really have a flop, but they had that Solo film directed by Ron Howard that was just, it wasn't bad. I actually enjoyed it, but it didn't hit as big as a Star Wars film usually does. And it just kind of means that they keep going and pretend that one didn't happen is kind of how the studios handle that. There was also the same thing, like I said, with Harry Potter. There was, I forget which film it was, but there was one that was just people were underwhelmed with. Fans weren't super thrilled with the 2-film finale of the Hunger Games series. And so Marvel, you just anticipated it. You just felt like they were going to have that one movie that was just a bomb, and they never did. Well, yet. They haven't yet. Black Widow isn't striking quite as big of a mark as previous Marvel films, but there could be a lot of factors there as well. We're just coming off of a pandemic when everyone basically forgot movies were a thing. It also is one of the side characters of the Avengers films. I guess you'd say she wasn't a main Avenger, even though she was an Avenger. She was like Hawkeye, kind of supplemental. But Hawkeye fans and Black Widow fans probably hate hearing that, but it's just the way it plays out. It was probably never going to be a blockbuster like Infinity War or Endgame, or even those original Iron Man movies were, but it isn't bombing. So far Marvel has had, I was going to say good luck, but I feel like this is well planned. They've stumbled onto something, and they've managed to keep it fresh, and for more than a decade. So DC, on the other hand, has had DC has a tendency to get it right and then ruin it, and this seems to be their MO. I feel like they stumbled onto something that could have been pretty big, could have been maybe not Marvel Cinematic Universe big, but DC's first official non-Batman big hit with that Henry Cavill Superman. And then they just took it to some weird places with the with something that also should have been, I think, a big hit, the Justice League film. So DC's just been scrambling to try and get in on this. Not to, I think they're probably even realistic that the odds of lightning striking twice like it did for Marvel are slim to none. But DC has some great characters, some great storylines, every reason to believe that done well, they could take their product, their properties, and do the same thing with them as far as a big film franchise. And Suicide Squad, critics are saying, might officially be the one, finally. Now, again, this is the second time that I don't know if we're calling this a reboot or just pretending that first one didn't exist, but either way, critics are saying this one, DC seems to have finally figured out what works. Which here's the thing I don't get about that. I'm sure DC producers, writers, executives who hire directors, all of those folks, producers that make the decisions like how's this, what's the tone of this all going to be? They've seen the Marvel movies, right? So I don't understand how it all goes wrong somehow for DC every time, every single time. But it does, and they just seem to the point where sometimes you feel like you should go see the DC films almost like a sympathy thing, Like, maybe I'll go buy a ticket just so they don't feel bad or something. Either way, we'll see what happens with Suicide Squad. It's the trailer is out again. This is trailer number 2. This is the big return of James Gunn as well. James Gunn was temporarily canceled. One of the silliest cancelings that happened. This one was kind of a retaliatory cancel. There were some folks who just wanted to claim ahead in all this, and he had tweeted years ago some, pretty vulgar and profane stuff, jokes, and but it took him out for a while. He was removed from a couple of films. There were a few things that his name was on that were canceled, and then he just kind of laid low for a while. But he's back, and will be back, as I understand it, for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 as well. So, speaking of all this excitement, though, all the things Andy and I will have to talk about here on this extended movie show, the remainder of the summer is packed. So we've been in a little, maybe 2-week lull here with films. Not that there wasn't anything coming out or anything to see on streaming services. There was plenty. But now we're officially in kind of a hyper mode as far as release dates. So we'll run through all of those. Black Widow again in theaters. Andy talked about this last week, but The Tomorrow War, this is an Amazon original. The Tomorrow War on Prime is definitely, it's sitting pretty low in the online ratings like Rotten Tomatoes, but it's good. It's really good. Chris Pratt from the Parks and Rec fame and Guardians of the Galaxy stars in that one, but definitely a twist on the alien invasion, save the world kind of sci-fi movie, and it's done really well. So also huge this week, this is based on a children's book series called Fear Street, but on Netflix, Fear Street Part 1, and which is titled 1994, the year, and Fear Street Part 2, these are separate films but related, titled 1978. I don't know the story behind the year titles on there, 1994 and 1978. Fans of the series, or maybe people with children who have enjoyed the series. I compared it once to, I said, oh, is this like the old Goosebumps thing? And they said, no, this is actually, like some good stuff and done really well and fun for kids. And by kids, I say, maybe early to late teens. Late teens might be a little too old for this, but anyway, it's been really popular on Netflix. I haven't checked it out myself, but that's actually topping the Netflix charts from this week. So check those out. There's also a movie called No Sudden Move. This one kind of flew under the radar a little bit, probably for reasons. It's a Soderbergh film, and it's it's kind of exactly what you'd expect from Steven Soderbergh. But it's set in 1954 Detroit and centers around a group of low-level criminals that are hired to, what they're told is they're hired to steal a document, and then everything goes wrong. And they have to, once everything goes wrong, there's a calamity ensues. They want revenge. So they decide to try and track down the anonymous person behind the group that hired them and figure all this out. So this crime movie becomes sort of a urban Indiana Jones kind of thing, trying to unravel this intricate web of crime and conspiracy, and all set around a year in 1954. Detroit was quite a year, to say the least. There were riots, protests, parts of the city on fire. And, of course, a lot of police brutality kind of dominating the streets. It was a tumultuous year. So the film being set in that year, I'm sure there's a reason for that. But that is right now the top of the critics list as far as things to get out and see. So that's also premiering this week. And finally, I wanted to mention this one because I don't know if everyone has heard of it, but topping, now this is not just on Netflix, this is the audience choice for the last week across streaming services. So this is audience choice when given a choice between new releases on Amazon Prime, Hulu, Netflix, Peacock, all of them. They even include HBO Go in that, although they didn't have anything new original-wise this week. And the winner, the top of all this, was Katla, is how it's pronounced, Katla. And this is actually set in Iceland. And Iceland recently experienced an actual volcanic eruption. It's still going on, in fact. And the producers claim they obviously couldn't have predicted that, but it's really helped promote the film. And so this is the story of this volcanic eruption in Iceland, and it's been happening subglacially for more than a year. This actually happened a while ago in Iceland. A subglacial eruption, so it doesn't ever come to the surface, but it's happening, and everybody's watching to see if it does. And the story of a woman looking for her missing sister who disappeared after a previous eruption. This current eruption comes along, and they've searching for her sister all these years. Suddenly, her sister shows up after the second eruption. So I don't know if this is horror or sci-fi. It's definitely in that maybe hybrid realm. But that is what's topping all of the streaming services. Audience choice this week is Katla, and you can see that on Netflix, starring, well, no one you've heard of, all Icelandic actors. But critics, for what it's worth, are saying that this is very well done, very tense, scary even in parts, but more than all of that, just absolutely beautiful to watch. That is what was written by a New York Times critic. So check it out. Katla topping the streaming service charts this week. But again, it's a big week of premieres between now and next Friday. There's quite a bit out today even, and some we missed from last week. So we'll be talking about all of that with Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com here on an extended movie show, which continues right after this.
It's what we do and where we go. We connect with people at home or at work, online or in person. Everyone needs connecting. At CBTD, we are committed to helping our community connect by providing a service for you, a service that gives some the independence that they otherwise might not have. Our employees are here to connect you with the people and places that matter most through our services and through our values. Learn more at cbtdbus.org.
The results are in for the 2021 Best of Northern Utah contest.
Best of Northern Utah.
Brought to you by Thermo Fisher. Pick up your copy of the Winners Magazine. Pickup locations are listed at bestofnorthernutah.com. Over 300,000 votes were cast to determine gold and silver winners in 164 business categories. Help congratulate these businesses and support all of your local businesses. And thank you for participating in the 2021 Best of Northern Utah contest.
Okay, Cash Valley, it's time to cash in your mad money at Anderson's Seed and Garden. You've been saving all spring for this sale. Don't miss it. Mad Money is redeemable now through Saturday. Use it or lose it. Spend it on flowers or trees, home decor or wind chimes, and fertilizer or sprays. Watch for additional discounts and bonus Mad Money coupons. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Anderson's Seed and Garden, 69 West Center, Logan.
Utah is in extreme drought. Reservoir levels are low, and wildfire risk is dangerously high. We don't know how long this drought will last, so we all need to do our part to save water. Reduce lawn watering to no more than twice a week for northern Utah and 3 times a week for southern Utah. Your lawn won't look lush and green, but grass is resilient and will bounce back when conditions improve. Prioritize your watering to focus on trees and shrubs. Check with your local water provider for possible restrictions in your area. For more information, visit slowtheflow.org.
Guess which energy source is truly the cleanest for the environment, is affordable, abundant, and is ready right now to do what all the other clean energy sources hope to do someday? It's propane. Yes, propane. To learn more about what propane can do for you, check out The State of Energy right here, Saturday mornings at 6:30. Also, the propane industry is set to grow by $50 billion over the next 5 years. Go to findapropanejob.com.
Welcome back to the For the People movie show with Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com. Joining us here in the studio now. I mentioned, Andy, that...
Can you call it the extended edition?
I did. I set it up as an extended movie show because...
Bonus 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Well, there's so much to cover. And then one of our listeners, our listeners all have great senses of humor.
Oh.
Our listener said, please let this be Andy wanting an extra half an hour to review Boss Baby Family Business. Please, please, please. So I thought I'd throw that out. I don't know how the listener guessed that's what you wanted, but... Here you go. Here's your 30 minutes for Boss Baby Family Business.
That is an abomination.
How do these films happen?
I like it when it's like, hey, free. I think it wasn't on Peacock. They're like, free.
Just
free.
Anybody watch it.
Please.
Go ahead.
Please watch
Someone
it.
acknowledge it got made.
No, there's so many things to talk about. So last week, we were supposed to talk about Black Widow. I was... incommunicado, is that the word?
Incapacitated.
Incapacitated.
Jail.
That's the right. It was jail.
Jail.
I didn't want to talk about it. It was movie jail.
Movie boy, get to movie jail.
You know, one thing that
you been called movie boy recently?
No, not recently. One thing I like though that makes me laugh is a lot of people. You know, there's the things that are in your face in comedies. This is probably going to lead us on a tangent, but one thing I like in comedies...
That's why we do the extended show.
It is. I like the underhanded things that come in. People don't really notice that you notice on subsequent viewings. And I was watching the other day. I hadn't seen this in probably a decade or more, and I'm not even sure why I watched it on purpose a decade ago. But Honeymoon in Vegas with Nicolas Cage and Sarah Jessica Parker, James Caan. That was kind of when, I mean, Nicolas Cage had already established himself as a good actor. He'd been in Raising Arizona. He'd been in Moonstruck, you know, but he'd also done some really crazy stuff as well.
And he's still doing that.
Like what's the vampire? Remember the one with the vampire where he's like the New York businessman?
That one was strange. That was really weird.
Super strange.
And then that horror movie, Independent, it was at Sundance a few years ago with a woman's name, Mandy.
Oh, Mandy's, that's great.
It's good, but I mean...
it's nuts.
But I mean, this is the stuff that you watch an actor who has risen to the levels that he has at one point in the past, choosing to be in a film like that. You know, it's a choice.
Well,
he doesn't have to do them. He's doing them on purpose.
He kind of does. There's a double thing. I think one, he wants to do them. Yeah, you know, he's in that same league as Liam Neeson and Samuel L. Jackson. They're like, I don't need any more money.
That's what I do.
But I'm going to keep tacking on. If I can make a paycheck, I can make a paycheck.
It fascinates me still to even think about it. The pitch.
I never joke about cheese, Susan. I'm sorry.
The pitch.
You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Exactly. The pitch for Ice Road.
Yeah,
I would
love to be in that room.
I would pay money to have been in that room when they're like, so
your name's going to be
here's this movie we want you to be in.
We won't say the last name because it's possibly inappropriate.
Yeah, for reasons we don't know why.
We don't know why. We just thought it'd be great to have this as the guy's last name. No, I honestly,
I don't. If you think about all the people that are involved in the production of a film, and then you see something like Ice Road come out, and you're like, how? No one said.
We're going to talk about that.
Wait a minute.
We're going to talk about that when we talk about the.
Maybe we don't need to make this movie
when we talk about the Forever Purge in a minute. But But going back to Nicolas Cage, there's a line in Honeymoon in Vegas. It's so fast. But it happens so fast, and it's when he's yelling at the lady at the ticket counter. It's like, what are you gonna do? Throw me in airport jail? And
and supposedly that was ad-lib.
That kills me every time.
It's a great line.
He's in a new movie that I really want to see that hasn't come up to Cache Valley yet. It's playing in Ogden. It's called Pig.
Yeah,
and I might say, if I asked you, hey, if I told you a movie title and I asked you to tell me what it was about, you know, if I told you to tell me the plot of Pig, you probably wouldn't guess what it is.
I think my brain has been twisted on all swine-related movie plots after that one episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
So I can't think of it. If somebody says there's a pig in the movie, that's the first thing I think of is that episode 1 of Black Mirror.
It's like John Wick but with a pig, right? Nicolas Cage is this guy. He lives out in the woods, quiet, peaceful existence. Has a pig that's a truffle hunter. The pigs that go out and find the mushrooms, the decadent mushrooms that they sell to fancy restaurants. And apparently that's a dirty underground business. Somebody takes his pig, and you know what? There is vengeance to be had.
I would also love to be in the pitch for this movie too, when they're explaining it. And
I can get on board with stuff like that.
do you think there's envy? Do you think Liam Neeson's ever sitting around looking at a trailer for an up-and-coming Nicolas Cage film?
Yeah.
And he's like,
there's
oh,
there's an SNL skit with that. Have you seen the SNL skit?
I wish they did.
There's an SNL skit.
I was in that one.
There's an SNL skit that's Liam Neeson talking about his movie, and Andy Samberg is playing Nicolas Cage, and it's on the Weekend Update, and he's like, that sounds like a movie I'd be in. It's really funny. You should check that out on YouTube.
Check that out. I missed that one.
No, but going back, we didn't talk about Black. There's two things we got to talk about in the So let me lay out let me lay out the blueprint for our extended edition today. We need to talk about Black Widow.
Okay.
Because the last thing I left our listeners with, and you and I talked about this, I just said, I'm not excited. I'm going to go see it because it's Marvel. But yeah. I'm not excited. So
you actually kind of said you were worried.
Yeah, I just was kind of panicked because I was like
apprehensive.
It feels like this should have been a movie 5 or 6 years ago. You know what I mean?
It feels like it should have been a Captain America movie.
It's really good.
Okay.
Well, let me back up. Hang on. Let me put the car in reverse.
Don't spoil it yet. Tease them for the other side of the news.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Loki. I know some people might have not seen all the episodes, so we're not going to spoil anything. But I want to talk about maybe where Marvel's headed. We also need to talk about a movie that came out last week on HBO Max. And it's playing in theaters. It's called No Sudden Move. It's a Steven Soderbergh movie.
I talked about this a little bit before you got here because the fact that it's set in 1954 intrigues me.
And in Detroit.
Yeah, that intrigues me. It makes me feel like there's
that's some good things.
Anyway,
I've got some good things to say about that. We also need to talk about a new series of horror movies on Netflix, the Fear Street movies. They've already had 2 come out. 1666 came out today. I have not seen the third and final installment, but I did see the other 2. We want to talk about that. And then we also want to talk about a horror movie on so many levels called The Forever Purge, which I wasn't sure. I kept looking and I was like, is this a horror comedy? Or was I supposed to laugh?
It's hard to tell with a couple of them.
Was I supposed to laugh at that point? This is one of those movies. Oh, yeah, I'm going to get in trouble. I was going to say this is one of those movies where I think they set out and they were like, you know what? We're going to flip the script and we're going to be more diverse. But in their quest to be more diverse, it almost becomes
parody.
It's kind of silly in some regards.
I know what you mean. There's a few like that.
But anyway, we'll talk about that. That has people might be going, I don't know who is in the Forever Purge. It has the Home Depot voice that used to that Hollywood wanted us to like in the mid 2000s.
No one did.
Yeah, every time I can't ever think of his name, so I'm like, that's more doing, more saving.
Yep,
that's what his name is.
And you recognize his voice when you hear it.
Josh. Josh something. Josh Home Depot.
Josh Lucas.
Josh Lucas.
I had to look it up.
Josh, more saving. What is it? The Home Depot's line? More saving, more doing.
I can't remember, but you did the voice actually pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you hear him, you think that
Josh Lucas. They really they wanted us to like him.
On the other side, I also have to tell you about on Netflix. Everyone fan of horror movies should see this. A classic horror story.
Oh, it's Italian, right?
Yeah, I watched this. The only thing I would say, watch it with the overdubs, not the subtitles. You miss some stuff if you're reading because it's kind of fast moving. But man, what a really well, yeah.
I also need to tell you about how
and don't read about it on the internet first.
I won't
because I
don't like spoilers.
There are some surprises in this one. This movie is one of those that I don't remember if it's halfway or a third of the way through after it being just perfect for what it looks like at first. Then all of a sudden it becomes something else entirely, and it's a shock, and then that is compelling too. And man, it was I was glued to that.
We also need to talk about how maybe we can save this for the last 5 minutes of the show. I need to tell everyone now. I introduced Sam, my recent high school graduate, to the movie Hereditary.
Oh,
for the past week.
That's just cruel. I mean, he's old enough, but cruel still.
He's really getting into cinema this summer. He watches like a movie a day.
Oh, that's cool.
He's and it's across the spectrum. And I said, "Have you ever seen Hereditary?" And he said, "No." And I said, I believe he said, "No, you wouldn't let me." And I went, "Now is the time.
You're 18 now.
Now's the time, dear boy.
Watch it up." Let's talk about that. You should see if he'll call in. And nobody wants to hear him.
I don't. Yeah, he's locked himself in a shed. So
I'm still scarred
see
by that
him
movie.
later.
All right. We'll be back. Andy's giving you a little preview there of everything we have to talk about, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. It is really starting to speed up here as far as releases, things hitting theaters, streaming services, and more. We'll talk about it all after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News brought to you by U&I Furniture. The final legal chapter of a multi-million-dollar online opioid drug ring has ended as a group of millennials who helped run the dark web operation based in suburban Salt Lake City have been sentenced to prison. Drew Crandall helped start the operation that eventually grew to shipping tens of thousands of fake pills laced with the deadly opioid fentanyl to people nationwide in 2016. He cried as he grappled with his role in the operation the prosecutors have linked to multiple overdose deaths. He was sentenced to 4.5 years in federal prison today. The families of overdose victims say the punishment for him and other defendants was too light. Authorities say 3 workers on board a freight train were injured when it derailed while crossing tracks covered with water in a remote part of southern Utah last night. The train tipped on its side after derailing near Lund. The Iron County Sheriff's Office says the workers climbed out on top of the tilted locomotive but were trapped there because of flooding. Emergency crews were not able to get to the train until about 3 hours later because of the conditions, but were eventually able to take the workers to the hospital. 2 were in good condition, and the other was in stable condition. And corrections officials in Alaska say a Utah man who was sentenced to 30 years in prison in the beating death of his wife on an Alaska cruise has died. The Alaska Department of Corrections says Kenneth Manzanares was in the department's custody at a facility in Juneau when he was found unresponsive in his cell Wednesday morning. The department says life-saving measures were attempted before he was later pronounced dead. The department says the Alaska State Troopers and State Medical Examiner's Office reviewed the deaths of individuals in custody. The department says no foul play is suspected in Manzanares' death. An email seeking comment was sent to Manzanares' attorney. KVNU weather, partly cloudy tonight, low in the upper 50s, and then sunny on the weekend, mid-90s tomorrow, upper 90s on Sunday. Weather brought to you by Hooker Appliance. Cool down with a portable fan. Includes a Mister 3 speeds swinging. It's a swinging fan with remote control aromatherapy capability. It also shows the current temperature and has Bluetooth capability. Everywhere else, this fan is $329 while they last. It's at last year's price, only $249 at Hooker Appliance, 3620 North Main. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. We'll check Wall Street next with Edward Jones.
People love shopping at U&I Furniture. They know they're going to get a great price on a quality piece of furniture. And one section of the store is Chair Heaven, where U&I has a big selection of rocker recliners, power recliners, big chairs, chairs for the petite, swivel chairs, accent chairs, lift chairs, all kinds of chairs. U&I works hard to have the inventory you're looking for. In fact, they order new furniture on almost a daily basis to keep stocked up. So if you need a sofa love, sectional, a new dining room set, stop in and see why there really is always a better buy at U&I Furniture in downtown Logan at 28 West First North.
This is Cheryl bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Jeff Olson and Edward Jones. Equities finished lower on Friday despite a solid retail sales report that offered additional reasons for optimism over the health of the economic outlook. International equities were broader lower, led by a decline in Japanese stocks. The utility, consumer staples, and healthcare sectors led today, while financials, energy, and materials were among the laggards, reflecting a defensive tone heading into the weekend. Stocks finished lower on the week, but continue to hold on to a strong year-to-date gains as the outlook for economic and earnings growth remains favorable. The Dow closed down 300 points at 34,687. The Nasdaq closed down 116 points at 14,427. The S&P 500 closed down 33 points at 4,327. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 1.3%. In stocks of local interest, Nucor was down 3.38 to 92.04. Thermo Fisher was up 5.31 to 519.79. Wells Fargo was down 0.72 to 44.28. Walmart was down 0.1 to 141.56. Chevron was down 2.68 to 98.62. Apple was down 2.09 to 146.39. Walt Disney was down 4.84 to 179.31. Procter & Gamble was up 1.35 to 140.51. Autoliv was down 4.54 to 90.44. Northrop Grumman was down 1.31 to 362.81. Zions was down 2.07 to 49.60. R. Donnelley was up 0.02 to 6.12. Amazon was down 57.57 to 3,573.63. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Jeff Olson, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 580 North Main in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-787-8170. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
Old McDarrell has a farm and appliance farm
with down-home country prices and big city selection.
E-I-E-I-O. When you're looking for a friendly spot to drive a little and save a lot, hey, Old McDarrell has a farm and appliance farm. Darrell's Appliance. Low overhead, but lots of country charm. See Darrell's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
Hello, I'm Sister Mary Regina.
And I'm Sister Hubert, and we're two nuns who star in the musical comedy Nonsense.
Well, I'm a star. You're more like an understudy?
Yes, one tries hard not to question Reverend Mother.
And one will try harder
in the future. Oh, how do you make holy water?
How do you make holy water?
You boil the hell out of it.
Nonsense is at the Ellen Eccles Theater July 23rd through 31st.
Get tickets at musictheaterwest.org or casharts.org.
See you there. That was my line.
Pristine wilderness can still be found in the West, where creeks run freely and historic apple trees still bear fruit. Maple Creek Ranch features breathtaking canyon views and opportunities for real estate development. 2.5-acre lots are now available with adjacent wilderness areas that provide endless riding and recreational possibilities. So find your piece of paradise just 35 minutes from Logan at Maple Creek Ranch. Schedule your appointment online at maplecreekranch.net.
It's true, many of us spend more time thinking about what's for dinner than thinking about retirement. But if you think your retirement needs deserve more attention, we agree, and we'd like to help. We're Edward Jones. Together, we can give your long-term retirement strategy the attention it deserves. Contact your local Edward Jones financial advisor to get started today. Call 1-800-ED-JONES. Visit edwardjones.com or stop by any of the 7 Edward Jones offices in Cache Valley.
Sorry, I don't mean to embarrass you, but I'm a rather brilliant surgeon. Perhaps I could help you with that hump.
What hump?
Welcome back to the For the People movie show, extended edition, with Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com here with us a bit early this week because, well, Andy and I were talking earlier in the week, and Andy pointed out there is a lot to cover between things he's seen since the last show and all of the new stuff in theaters on streaming services this week and next weekend, the one after that. I mean, it's pretty. The end of July here is proving to be a pretty busy season for new stuff, right?
Yeah.
And not all of it the Suicide Squad.
Well, and again, I mean, Black Widow did well. I don't know how to say this with a straight face, but because we used to be talking about box office numbers where you're like, it made $200 million in a weekend, but Black Widow, I mean, it made last weekend it made $80 million. That's huge. Post pandemic. So
I was talking about that at the first. We've speculated about it, and kind of everybody sort of expected it, anticipated Marvel having their first flop. Even though I wasn't with you in being anxious about this movie, I assumed I'd like it. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I did, however, think it would be their first big, not bomb, but meh.
I think Black Widow's going to probably, if I had to bet
for Marvel.
Yeah. Well, right now, so if you look at the movies, the highest grossing movies for the year, A Quiet Place Part 2 is at $152 million.
Wow.
This is just domestic. And I'm not 100%. Yeah, so worldwide or international, they're at $128 million. So they're almost at $300 million. And I don't know what the budget was for that, so I can't say if they've made their money back. But the point is that's pretty decent. And then the Fast and Furious movies at about $150 million. Black Widow's climbing. It's only been out a week.
Yeah,
and it's at $105 million. So I would assume that'll go higher.
That's pretty.
I would assume that would possibly tack on another 60-70 million. But let's talk about Black Widow for a second, because one, you and I have talked about this all year. Like when does things kind of fully go back to normal? And I almost feel like the box office is a lot just like how everything is right now. Where people
it's like
places,
normal but not.
Yeah, I mean it's like we've kind of come out and we're like looking, and you've been in the dark room and you're like, whoa, it's bright out here. That's how I feel.
Like that bear coming out of hibernation.
Yeah, I almost didn't want to believe it when people were saying back in 2020, they were like, oh, it's going to take a couple years. And I kept thinking, okay, it'll take all of 2020, but 2021 will kind of start, But
I sort of thought there would be just that movie that does it. Just that one that's just so much excitement around it, so much that everybody's just like, all right, we're back.
Yeah, and
we just haven't seen that yet.
No, and I think I think that's still to come. But I would say that each of these are a push.
You think maybe Dune?
I don't think so.
Does it take that long?
I actually think Dune is going to be. It's not going to make a lot of money.
You don't think so?
No, and not because it's not good. I just think.
Just not.
Most people aren't like Dune. Yes, and I think most people.
I always thought it had the potential to be like a sci-fi blockbuster.
Well, look at Blade Runner 2049. That didn't do very well at the box office, and it's a great movie.
Oh, it's an excellent movie.
And I think that's what you're going to find here is you got Denis Villeneuve, who's a great director that I just don't think is a household name. Well, unless you love cinema. So anyhow, but with Black Widow, what I liked about Black Widow is I like Scarlett Johansson. I think she's a great actress. I do, and I think she's been great as the Black Widow character. But
what was the film she was in that's just the two of them and their marriage is falling apart?
Marriage Story.
Yeah, that was the first time I watched that, and that was the first time I was really aware of how good she is.
Well, and she's in another movie,
excellent.
I think from 2014 called Under the Skin, where she plays almost a shape-shifting alien. That sounds like it would be like something. It's an independent movie, and it is gritty, and it is dark, and it is hard to watch. But she doesn't even really talk in that movie, and she's great.
That's cool.
I think she's a good actress. I think the Black Widow character to me is not that exciting.
That's why I expected this to be Marvel's first big meh.
Yeah,
like Solo for the Star Wars franchise.
And it's not. And again, that's not because I'm sure there's some, whatever, what do they call them? Incel? Somebody out there that's like, it's because Marvel's trying to shove women down our face.
I'd say the same thing about Hawkeye.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
The funniest joke in Deadpool 2. Do you remember that?
No.
Deadpool 2, he's completely crippled. He and the kid are in prison together, in mutant prison together.
Yeah.
And the kid says, let's break out, and Deadpool's back's broken, his legs are broken. He's like, look, I'm useless right now. Put a bow and arrow in my hands, I'm basically Hawkeye. I thought that was this great snub at the Marvel universe. But
speaking of Hawkeye, that's actually...
I would put, I don't think it's because it's a female character. I think it's just Hawkeye and Black Widow are sort of supplementals in the Avengers universe.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and
So
what I would say,
I worried it wouldn't carry a film.
No, I think you. And this is a hard thing to say because again, Scarlett Johansson's great. I was not expecting a lot of anything really in this movie, to be quite frank. But when I actually ended up giving it, I think I gave it a B plus in that range. And the reason that I did that was because there are two people that saved this movie, and I shouldn't say save because it feels like a Mission Impossible movie. Is what it felt like.
It looks like one.
It did. It felt like that. But who saves this movie is David Harbour, who is the Stranger Things guy. He plays I can't remember his superhero's name, but he's Black Widow's kind of surrogate dad.
Oh, okay.
And then Florence Pugh. Florence Pugh is actually probably I thought was the shining star of the movie.
Really?
Florence Pugh, for those that it's not a household name. If you saw her face, you'd go, I know her. She was in Midsommar, which she should have won Best Actress for, but she ended up winning, I think, nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Little Women, of all things, for just wearing a dress and talking. But Midsommar's the better performance.
Moratorium on those for a while.
Yeah.
I really think so.
But she's great, and what's great about this, it almost has a little bit of feel. You remember the TV show The Americans, about the Russian family?
Yeah.
That's what you get. The plot is basically Black Widow, her sister that's played by Florence Pugh, and the mom it's played by Rachel Weisz, and then David Harbour's the dad. They're kind of this put together family, pretending to be an American family in America. The movie opens and they are basically escaping. They've kind of been made, so to speak, and so they escape. The family gets broken up, and that's kind of how Black Widow and her sister end up in like what's called the Red Room. And she's talked about this in other Marvel movies. The whole thing. You remember the running joke between her and Hawkeye. With Budapest. You and I remember Budapest very differently.
Very differently.
That is kind of brought to light, and actually it's actually quite disturbing. It's not a pleasant memory.
Oh, so you get to see the story behind that running
a little
joke.
bit, yeah.
Okay.
And then
You and I remember.
There's something, to be, we all know too, Black Widow's dead, all right? If you've seen all the Avengers movies, she's dead. She died in Endgame.
Kind of a self-sacrifice.
Yeah, kind of a self-sacrifice. And then here's where we get super meta. And this is what I really don't...
now that's why I want to see it.
Yeah.
Because this is the Phase 4.
Yes.
So you had all the transition with the Disney Plus stuff.
And this is where, and that's what I want to talk about is I don't know what... I get what Marvel's game is here because they can't make everything a movie.
Yeah.
And if they did, then you're talking about doing what Star Wars does, where you have a movie like Solo. But
they also can't keep this along the narrative going behind all these films.
The problem is you can't.
I'm surprised they got away with it as long as they did.
Well, I don't think you can tell somebody unless they're a huge Marvel fan. I don't think somebody can be like, "Oh, you will understand the end credits scene if you've watched
this movie
Falcon.
9 movies ago."
If you no, not even movies would be different, right? Because that was easy to follow from 2008 to 2018 or whatever 19 when the last that was. Because you were just like, oh, if you saw Guardians, you know what this is, right?
I think they did start to confuse people a little bit, though, when they got into... You had key stuff happening in Civil War that you needed to know for the second Avengers.
Yeah.
And I do think there were some people that started to drift at that point.
But a movie's 2 hours. I think what I don't understand what Disney's doing here is that then they say, okay, there's a post-credit scene at the end of Black Widow, so you want to stay if that's your deal. Or not.
Is it important?
It is for setting stuff up. But but here's the thing that's funny is unless you've watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and unless you've obviously seen Endgame or whatever, you wouldn't know, right? Because again, it's obviously Florence Pugh has more to play in this, because she's part of that post-credit scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of strange a little bit, We'll talk about this on the other side because I want to talk about Loki and what I really don't know what Marvel's trying to do here.
That's it. Yeah, nice segue into that because we'll talk Loki on the other side because really between the two, the Loki series on Disney Plus and Black Widow, you have hints at least, right, at where Phase 4 goes.
We think.
Hour 2 of the For the People movie show coming up right.